We already saw how Deuteronomy's rules for kings and Solomon's blatant disregard for those rules are meant to be read in parallel. You're meant to have two scrolls if this is the olden days, the scroll of Devarim, Deuteronomy 17, in your right hand, and the scroll of Sefer Malachim, the Book of Kings, chapter 10, in your left hand. And you're meant to read through the prohibitions of what is forbidden of the kings of Israel and see perfect match, check, 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 everything gets checked off of Solomon breaking every rule one by one. In when we see Solomon's prayer of dedication in 1 Kings 8 on his prayers for when the foreigner comes to visit, likewise there's a parallelism with 1 Kings 10, but this time instead of check, 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 everything checking off, we're set up with one set of expectations and then it pans out differently. This is still the same parallelism, rhyming ideas, literary mechanism, but employed in a different way. The establishing of a pattern and then breaking it is meant to tell us something. So if we go to 1 Kings 8, this is Solomon's prayer of dedication for the temple. He's brought the ark into the temple. The glory cloud has descended. Solomon has thanked God for his fulfilling his promise to David that his son would build the temple. Solomon prays that God, when any of these covenant curses come, that in like Leviticus 26-27, Deuteronomy 28-29, and there's your people are defeated by an enemy, or there's no rain, there's drought, there's famine, there's plague and pestilence, then when your people repent and cry out, hear from heaven, and when they turn from their wicked ways and restore your land, hear their prayer and forgive when the prayer is directed to this temple. But he also has a prayer not just for the people of Israel, he has a specific prayer for the foreigner. And he says, likewise, when a foreigner who is not of your people Israel comes from a far country for your name's sake, for they shall hear of your great name and your mighty hand and of your outstretched arm. Now let's stop there, because this is really setting us up with the exact situation that unfolds in just 1.5 chapters later in 1 Kings 10, Queen of Sheba. When the Queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to test him with hard questions. She came to Jerusalem with a very great retinue, with camels bearing spices and much gold and precious stones. So you have the three ingredients. You have the foreigner, not from the people of Israel. You have they come from a faraway country. And why do they come? Because they hear of your great name and your mighty hand. Now, that's the third one is not a perfect match, because Solomon's prayer says they shall hear of your great name and your mighty hand and of your outstretched arm. The focus is on God. The story of the Queen of Sheba, she heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord. So it's again one of these mixed bags. I mean, God is in the picture, and nothing wrong necessarily with hearing of the reputation of Solomon and his riches and his wisdom, but it is a little bit off from what we expected, and so maybe a red flag, or at least raising our antennas, raising our eyebrows, but we won't judge too much. But then continuing to read on, okay, so the Solomon's prayer of dedication has set us up, and when we get to the Queen of Sheba story, it's like, man, yes, this is exactly what Solomon prayed for, that the foreigner is going to come, and what's going to happen? The next step is when he comes and prays toward this house. If we go looking for that in the Queen of Sheba story, is disappointing. There's no, we're getting further away. Now there is some, she does see his burnt offerings that he offered at the Lord. So apparently she does go to the proximity of the house, that maybe the outer courts where the at least sacrifices and the altar could be visible. And she does give some praise to God later on after she's interacted with Solomon. Blessed be the Lord your God, who has delighted in you and set you on the throne of Israel. Blessed be the Lord, because the Lord loved Israel forever and has made you king, that you may execute justice and righteousness. So it's not, God isn't completely left out of the picture, although it seems that God is more of a tool for putting Solomon in place. It's not great is Yahweh, the God of Israel, who created the heavens and the earth. It's great is God who put glad that you have such a God who put Solomon on the throne. Solomon is the God is just the tool who puts Solomon on the throne. So I guess seems a bit off from what we would have hoped based on Solomon's prayer of dedication. But the ultimate goal, of course, was that Solomon prayed that God hear this person's prayer and do what the foreigner asks, answer their prayer, in order that all the peoples of the earth may know your name and fear you, as do your people Israel, and that they may know that this is the house that I have built is called by your name. When we look for this climax where the Queen of Sheba goes to the temple and prays and has this personal interaction with the God of Israel, I'm looking for Solomon to bring her to the temple and say, look, this is the temple. God is right there. His presence is dwelling in that back room in the Holy of Holies. We can't go in there, but you can direct your prayers towards there, knowing that God is right there. You can direct your prayers to the God of Israel, who is the God who created the heavens and the earth. He's going to hear you, and you can experience answered prayer from the God of Israel yourself. You can go back to your land in Sheba and report that in Israel, the God of the universe dwells in the house, and he will hear prayers even for those of us who don't belong in Israel, because he's the God who created the heavens and the earth. I'm looking for that in the Queen of Sheba story, and I'm not seeing it. And again, this is more than an argument from silence. If that was just my personal desire as a Gentile, I'm looking for some more Ruth and Rahab stories where the foreigner comes and joins people. If this was just my personal desire, that would be one thing. But this is not just an argument from silence. This is Solomon's prayer of dedication itself is setting us up with this expectation, and this is in such close proximity. Just a few paragraphs later, between Queen of Sheba and Solomon's prayer, this is still fresh in our mind. Solomon's prayer has set us up with this expectation that the foreigner is going to offer prayers at the temple, and that they're going to go back to their land sharing the good news that God dwells amongst a people here on earth, and that you can pray to him and he will hear you, and it doesn't show up. So the Queen of Sheba seems enamored with Solomon himself, and he's more than eager to fan the flames of that, and answer all of his questions, show his wisdom, his possessions, the food on his table, all of his officials, his servants, his clothing, and their cupbearers. Uh, she's impressed with, oh, happy are your servants, happy are your men who serve you. And yeah, again, God shows up in the picture, but he's kind of behind the scenes. The Solomon is the focus here. Now, how much is Solomon? How much is the Queen of Sheba culpable for being so enamored with Solomon rather than Solomon's God? How much is Solomon culpable for not putting forth more of an evangelistic effort to say, hey, this isn't about me. Everything I have is from God. And in fact, I'm not the mediator between you and God. You don't just you don't just have to listen to the wisdom that I have that I got from God. You can go to the temple and you can pray to the God of the universe yourself. Solomon certainly doesn't seem to take the initiative to introduce the Queen of Sheba into that she can have this personal interaction with the God of the universe herself and see answered prayers. He certainly seems to drop the ball, and in any case, the expectation that we've been set up to expect when we actually get to the story, the parallels break down, and it's this anticlimactic drop and disappointment, that we were looking to see the blessing The blessings given to Abraham through Solomon extended to all the families of the earth, and it just doesn't happen, at least not nearly to the extent that we're set up to expect.